Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. Okay, welcome to the latest episode of Sausage on a Fork, and I am absolutely delighted to say that I have been joined for this episode by none other than Kate Bell, who played Kelly Bradshaw. Kate, welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, not at all, not at all. And what we'll do, Kate, is we'll start this episode the way we start every episode. And if you could tell us how you first got into acting.
Well, I'm the only actor in my family, and I think that I was just a bit precocious and just over enthusiastic about like singing in the front and stuff like that. So my parents were like, "Oh God, give her some kind of outlet." So I went to a theatre school, just like a Saturday one, and just doing drama lessons and singing and dancing. And then, like once I've been going for a few years, they were like, "Oh, a kids agency has got in contact with us and want to see some kids and see whether they would take anyone on." So I went to have a meeting with them, and the kids agency took me on. And the first job I went up for was a Persil advert.
All right.
And I got that. I was like, "Oh, this is good." Second job was a program on BBC. It was called Samson Super Slug. And I was in an episode of that with Keith Chegwin.
Wow.
Very odd.
Wow.
Yeah, very odd. And is it Jan Dubovitz? Who's the one that's in Dewitsky? The one that's in One Foot in a Grave, who's the neighbour. The one who was married to
I know the one you mean. Yeah,
Deaton.
Angus Deaton. Yeah, the other. Yeah, I know.
And so I did that, and then my third audition was Grange Hill.
Wow.
And then it was and on with Grange Hill, it's like we need just some a few characters that will have a few lines to say here and there, but we don't know how long they're going to be in it for. Maybe it's just a few episodes just here and there, and I went for that, and I got that part, which I was very, very, very,
Brilliant.
very excited about. The rest is history.
So were you a fan of Grange Hill when you got the part?
I was a big fan. I watched it, and I always remember that I used to think, I hope that secondary school isn't actually going to be like that, because that's scary. And then the bit with Zamo in the toilet, I remember my brother going, "Kate, don't look, you're scared." So it was always, I remember it being like, "Oh my God, is that literally what secondary school is going to be like?" So but I did watch it. I was
so what was it like then? Obviously, you being a fan, watching it on telly, and then all of a sudden, you're in this room with these people that you've been watching. Like, I mean, what was that like?
It was like by the time I was, when I left Grange Hill, I was like, and for many years before, I was like, I just absolutely loved it. Best years of my life. In the first year, because I kind of joined halfway through a block as well. All the kids, like in the year 7 characters, they'd all like formed friendships, and I was coming in halfway through, and I was like, "Oh, I don't really know anyone." Then I'd look around in the green room or the read through and see all of the big characters and be like, "Oh my God." And it was really overwhelming, and I had to just try and be cool and try and be like, "Okay, we're all professionals here." And then the chaperones were always really good at being like, you're all together, you're professionals, so don't worry about it, but it was a big deal to go in and see all of those big characters.
Brilliant. So you just mentioned there the fact that you started halfway through. It was series 18, went on air in 95. And as you say, you played Kelly Bradshaw, but like, you were only in 7 episodes, and the first time we saw you, it wasn't until like see episode 30, something like it was quite late on. Was there any reason for that, or was that just
No,
the way it went?
it was like I said that they were just like they needed some characters kind of in to fill some gaps and like have like probably Poppy might need a friend in that
Yeah,
scene or like that. So it was just that, and then I think that the more I was doing, and because I got on well with everyone,
yeah.
just like would see more for my character to do. So yeah, it was a bit of filler at first. And actually, my first contract name was Kelly Johnson. That was the first.
Right.
And then it was suddenly like I remember like Kelly Bradshaw. I was like, oh, I've got married in school or something, or like changed my name.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but now I'm like, I was almost Carrie Bradshaw, like one of the
Yeah.
favorite characters of all time. Nearly, but no, Kelly Bradshaw. A bit
Brilliant.
different. She was a bit different. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I like the first time we saw Kelly, I don't know if you remember this, but it was when there was all like the Lonely Hearts thing was going on, like the blind dates. And we see Kelly talking with Sarah Jane. And Sarah Jane had one of these blind dates, and she had a blind date with someone called Young Gun. And so they were talking about it, and Colin was standing at the bottom of the fire escape at the bottom of the stairs, and he just says hi, like he's trying to be all smooth. And when the girls asked him who he was, he said, "Just call me Young Gun 2, the sequel."
Oh my
And
God,
to which
that's
to,
spark memories.
to which Kelly replied, "See, any creep can sound good with a flash name." And that was
Really?
like your big introduction. So we kind of get a taste for what Kelly could be like with people. But then there was also the sleepover at the Science Museum.
Oh my God. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So did you actually sleep over in there?
We actually slept over in the Science Museum. It was amazing. It was like, we were like, oh my God, we're properly doing this. And I remember that because we'd obviously filmed all night, we then, for like age and chaperones and things like that, we had to go and sleep. Like we had to go and rest. And now it's all coming back to me. We had to go, we went to this awful hotel that was
Right.
really cheap in like round the corner, like Earl's Court, Kensington or whatever. And we were all just like shoved in this room to sleep. And we were just kind of like, what is going on? And of course, none of us slept because we were all like just chatting and over.
Yeah.
But it was so good. It was so much fun. That storyline and us all doing it was such a big adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. And the thing I like about that is when the kids all wake up in the morning, there was a really weird noise. And Poppy's like, "What's that noise?" And Kelly's half asleep. And she looks around and she just goes, "Oh, it's the train," because they were sleeping by the train. But it was actually Sarah Jane snoring. It was actually the noise.
Yeah. Oh, that makes me really want to watch.
And I love this bit again. There's an art lesson with Mr. Brisley, and
Yeah.
he's talking about making art with found objects, like rubbish, basically. And Kelly was eating crisps in the lesson,
Cool.
to which Mr. Brisley asked her to put them away. But Kelly argued that she should be able to eat them there because he told her that crisp papers were art. So what he did was he took the packet of crisps and emptied the, the crisps into the bin. And then he looked at it and said, "Now it's art. Now you can use it."
Oh my God.
And
Comedy gold.
there's another scene like where Kelly thought that Arnie had put a maggot down her back because he had this box of maggots.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I'm assuming they were real maggots, but I'm assuming you never actually had one put down your back.
No, I don't think so. That is very vaguely coming to mind. So I'm sure if it was real maggots put down, I would have
because
it, yeah.
because Kelly and Sarah Jane and Poppy used the maggots to get back at Wayne for picking on Poppy. Can you remember what they did with the maggots?
No.
So they put them in a sandwich,
Oh,
which they then put the sandwich in Poppy's coat, making sure Wayne could see it because there was obviously the huge bullying storyline
yeah.
between Wayne and Poppy.
And
So yeah,
that as well, that storyline, and just thinking of like how, like, what good friends, and how much we all just used to
yeah,
muck out so much, and it was just like mad that that was the storyline. Really.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because like Peter,
Yeah.
he couldn't be more further removed
No.
from the character of Wayne, like, or certainly the way Wayne was
Yeah.
at the start. Like, brilliant, brilliant. And then, so like I say, you weren't in it that much to start with, but then we moved on to your second year, series 19.
I like
Um,
this. This is like, this is your life.
like I said to you before we started recording, like we're gonna spark some memories here. Like,
Yeah, this is great. You might have to do this with the rest of my life. Remind me.
just every few months, we'll just have a chat on Zoom, just to let you know
Can
what
you,
you've been up to.
yeah, can you remind me what I did last month? Thanks.
Brilliant.
What are all my highlights this
I'm
year?
all for it, all for that. Like, so yeah, so I don't know if you remember, but there was Mrs. Maguire, who was the school secretary, and Kelly found her sitting on the floor in the toilets, and Kelly was really worried about her. And Mrs. Maguire said that she was fine, but she was pregnant and she just needed a minute's rest. So when Kelly walked off to the class, Mr. Robson asked her why she wasn't in class. And Kelly said she'd been in the toilet with Mrs. Maguire, who was having a baby. Not that she was pregnant, but she was having a baby. And she then walked into a lesson with Miss Carver, who gave her a detention for being late. And again, Kelly told her that Mrs. Maguire was in the toilet. She was having a baby, but obviously she didn't believe it, and the detention stood there. Now, Kelly's class were asked to bring something important into school, something that was important to them. Can you remember what Kelly brought into school?
A packet of crisps.
No. It was something a little bit bigger than a packet of crisps. If I give you the clue that it actually moved.
Oh my God. No. Oh my God. I literally can't remember. What was it?
So Kelly brought a rabbit into school.
Oh, did I? Oh my God. I literally have no recollection of this.
A rabbit called Pongo.
Oh, Pongo. Oh yeah, Pongo. That, yes, that ring. I remember that.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Now, while all that's going on, Kelly's got the rabbit in, Miss Maguire's pregnant. So Kelly and her mates were talking to Mrs. Maguire about what she should call the baby. But when Mrs. Maguire heard that Kelly's rabbit was called Pongo, she said she wouldn't be taking any advice from Kelly about baby names. The fact that she'd called her rabbit Pongo.
Oh.
Now, like we've said, we've mentioned the bullying storyline between Poppy and Wayne. And Poppy had been getting bullied, but it was one of them where I just thought the storyline was so well done. Like, it just showed you sort of how isolated someone can be, especially like they're not even telling their mates, because Poppy wouldn't tell anyone. And it was like, it was disrupting sort of like her whole life. And she was always Poppy always had to find new ways to get into school, meaning she was going to be late. Now, there's a bit where she's promised to meet Sarah Jane to let her copy her homework. And Sarah Jane got a detention and fell out with Poppy. And when Poppy tried to explain to Sarah Jane, Sarah Jane didn't want to know. So Poppy tried to explain to Kelly. And this is where we saw Kelly was like really conflicted over what to do, because she was mates with both of them, but she didn't know sort of how to handle it. And I think with Sarah Jane being sort of like the stronger character between the two of them, she sort of like, she sided with Sarah Jane on that one, which is what kids do, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You look at it and you think, okay, who do I side with here? Do I go with what I think is the right, or do I do what's going to be easier for me?
And out of Laura and Aisha at the time, I probably would have gone with the two. I don't want to mess.
Yeah, I mean,
and Aisha will be okay.
Like I kind of like as well as feeling sorry for Poppy, who I thought Aisha was brilliant
Yeah,
in
thank
that.
you.
You kind of feel sorry for Kelly, because even like when Poppy had the detention and she wrote a poem and left it behind, and Mr. Parrott gave it to Kelly and said, will you give that back to Poppy? And when Kelly read it, Kelly could tell that she was scared of someone, and she kind of worked it out who it was that she was scared of. And she told Sarah Jane about it and said, do you think we should tell someone? And Sarah Jane said, well, you can if you want, but I'm not going to. And again, we see like that conflicted side of Kelly. And in the end, she just scrumpled it up and didn't do anything about it. And like that storyline there for Kelly ended because obviously there was the Poppy with the going to the counsellors and everything else. So that storyline kind of ended there. However, there was one big storyline in that towards the end of that series, and that was when they did the school production of Grease.
Oh, yes, they did. Oh my God, I saw stills from that recently. Me and Fiona Wade, we were sending these pictures back and forth together, and I was like, oh my God, because basically my head was the size of a basketball, like it was as round as a basketball. And then I had this pigtail wig because I was playing jam. And oh my God, and it's just hilarious. And Fiona, who played Joanna,
Yeah.
Like her next to me has always been hilarious because we hang out and stuff. We're very good friends. And like just the size difference of tallness anyway. And then back then, like how big I was in comparison to her. But that the Grease days, that's when all of us really bonded as well.
Right.
Like it was the real mix of the different years being in scenes together. And it was so fun, like Brilliant. Really fun. Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't think I've asked anyone because I'm not like there've been a couple of people who were in that sort of the production, but this might sound like a really stupid question, but did you have to audition again to do that bit, or did they say to you, right, this is what you're doing?
They knew what characters they wanted to be in that, and that was part of the storyline. So so when it was like Kelly is going to be Jan, I was like, brilliant.
And did the singing and dancing come easy to you?
Yeah, well, I love Grease and knew it back to front. I'd done it in my theatre school, and so like it was just and I could dance and sing a bit. I mean, I'm not a singer, but I can hold a tune. Right. So I was loving it. It was brilliant.
And did the American accent come easy as well?
Well, I mean, I probably thought it was really good at the time. Maybe not, but of course it's excellent now.
Right. And then in that was the bit where Lucy, played by Belinda, was supposed to be playing Sandy, and she had to fall on her roller skates, did her ankle in, and then Cecile took over. I've never understood that one, but anyway, Cecile took over the role. So Cecile was Madame Lefebvre's daughter who'd come in to help out.
God, that is so vague, but yeah, that's ringing a bell.
And she was played by Sally Ann Marsh, who had been in other bits, like she'd been in a kids program called Tricky Business, and she'd done a few records and stuff as well. And the girls didn't like Cecile anyway because of something that had gone on with her and Joe, when Joe was meant to be going out with Jessica, and the girls quite picked on her quite a bit when they were doing the rehearsals and stuff. But eventually, obviously, in true Grange Hill fashion, the show went off without a hitch, other than Mrs. Maguire having her baby in the toilets during the show.
He was having the baby then.
Yeah. Now, series 20 then, we'll move on to there. And you were only in 5 episodes here.
Really?
Now, it went on air in 1997. Is there any reason for that? Why you were in so few? Or was it just because of the way, things had gone?
Nothing that I can remember. It must have just been the way.
It wasn't like exams or anything, or
what year would that have? I mean,
you would have filmed that in 96.
96. So yeah, is that? Oh God, I don't know. That's it. That's again where I need my.
You know, you hadn't been naughty or threatened with the sack or anything like that. Like,
Exactly that. Yeah, there's no obvious reason. So whether it was exams or something like that, maybe.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, so that was like the year of the street hockey, the
Oh
roller
my
hockey.
God. So what you're telling me? I was only in 5 episodes for that series,
Yeah.
and they were all those blimmin' hockey ones.
So I mean, it did carry on the following year, but I've got
That
to ask you. So
hockey. Oh
whenever,
my
whenever,
God.
whenever I'm putting out an episode of the podcast, I put picture clues online for people to guess
Oh no.
who it's going to be. So the last guest was Rebecca Joy Gilgan, who played Fran Williams, and the first person to guess that it was her was Wayne Rogers. Now, Wayne, I've said this before, Wayne is a massive Grange Hill fan. He's an admin on Facebook on the Grange Hill groups and stuff. Wayne's question is, obviously, Kelly tried out for the street hockey team. Could you skate already?
Oh my God. No, I could not. And this was the opposite to hearing you're going to be in Greece, the production. Like, you're going to be in a roller hockey team. I was like, what? As goalkeeper. And I was like, oh my God. It literally was my worst nightmare. So then that weekend, I was like ringing around my friends and saying, has anyone got any roller boots? Please, I need to just practice on them. And my friend was like, oh yeah, I've got some. She came round with them. I put them on. I literally stepped outside of the door and I was holding onto the door frame, and she slammed the door closed on my hand.
Wow.
And I basically didn't get further than me putting one step outside the door because she shut my hand in the door. And I was like, oh, that was a good start. I cut to another day trying again, and I was just terrible. So then I just had to say to everyone, I was like, I can't do this very well. And they were like, okay, well, we'll just always try and film you where you haven't got to do that much. So as soon as they were like, okay, we're setting up this shot, we want you to be 4 rows up in the stand in the gym, and then everyone stands up and comes down the step. Pitch or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you joking? I can barely move in these, let alone walk down some steps. So there's this one shot, and I'll never forget it, where everyone gets up, goes past up 1, 2, 3 onto the pitch, and then there's this big delay, and then I'm just like slowly trying to go past. Honestly, it was just horrendous. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I mean, obviously it's fun doing the stuff, and then I was wearing this full gear that obviously worn by other people, and it stank. It stank of old sweat, and it was horrible, really horrible. I did not enjoy that. But of course, because then everyone was always taking the mick as well, because then wardrobe were like, all right, and like what they always had to put me in this thing. It was just, yeah, it was not my favorite, and no, I could not skate, and I still cannot skate. I mean, thank God I was in goal.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing, because everyone else looks like a pretty competent skater, don't they? When you watch them,
Oh, yeah, because they could, and it was cool then, wasn't it? People were really skating. It will come back again now, but yeah, people could do it, and I was just like,
Brilliant. Okay, so Kelly does make the team, the Hill Hogs.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Probably through they were probably like, she's wide enough to fit in front of the goal, so she's in.
Well, I'm glad you said that and not me. Like, so yeah, no, there's a thing where Kelly's sort of staying to help Arnie tidy up after a practice, and she's like, "Oh, this is Thursday work. This should we, ask him if he fancied a drink." So which Arnie says, "Oh, have you brought one with you?" And she's like, "Well, no." He said, "We'll have to remember next time, won't you?" And then he walks off, leaving Kelly quite disappointed. But she told her mates that she was getting closer to a date with him. And after another practice, Arnie then told Kelly that he thought she was really great, which Kelly gets a big smile on her face. And then he was actually talking about her skills in goal. Maybe he'd never really seen you play in goal. I don't know.
Obviously, my acting skills were really good.
Brilliant, of course, yeah. And then he said that They had a really good team. They weren't going to lose any games. So Kelly again suggested that they go out to celebrate. And Arnie said that he was late to meet his girlfriend.
Oh.
To which Kelly then quit the team.
Oh.
And the other team members told Arnie that he'd have to ask Kelly out to get her back on the team. So he did. And he was suggesting all sorts of places to go. But Kelly just wanted to go to Ray's Cafe, the Archers.
Convenient, very convenient.
So that was where they went. And Kelly, was chatting away, asking him to go to her house the following week and she'd cook him a meal and all this. But Arnie then told her that he'd only asked her out to get her back on the team.
Oh, hurts to this day.
Well, I mean, you say that. Kelly walked out and Arnie walked out to apologise. And then we found out that Kelly had only gone out with him as a bet with her mates anyway.
Brilliant.
So they played Arnie there like
love that. Forgot that bit.
And Kelly then phoned Arnie up and said that she would play back on the team and told her mates that she wished she hadn't done it as a bet and that it had been for real. But, that's the way things go. And the Street Hockey Championship took place and the Hill Hogs won, obviously.
There you go. That's how things go in the street hockey, It's cutthroat. It is cutthroat.
No, there's a bit...
in your field,
Yeah, I mean, I love this next bit, though, because Kelly, Judy and Sarah Jane saw Kevin, Wayne and Robert writing in a notebook. And they were determined to see what they'd written in this book. The book was in Kevin's locker, so they made it their mission to get it and find out what was in the book. And when they did, they saw letters with numbers next to them, and they were trying to work out what the letters LAC stood for. Bearing in mind, the lads were in the gym when they were writing this down. Can you remember what LAC stood for?
Legs and chest.
Legs, arms, and chest. There we go.
Good guess.
And the numbers were their measurements. They were all trying to bulk up. But the girl, once the girls saw this and worked it out, the girls drew cartoons of them on the board in class with all their measurements on.
Wow, we were just going for it, weren't we?
And then that moved it on to Series 21 went on air in 98, and Kelly's in year 10 by this point. Now, I don't know if you remember this. The year 8 had a project of looking after flower babies.
Oh, yeah.
And Gemma set up like a creche so people could drop them in there and leave them there for a price of a chocolate bar. So Kelly, Sarah Jane and Judy had seen this and thought it was hilarious. And the next day when Gemma was looking after him, Gemma fell asleep. And when she woke up, the flower babies had gone with a note. There was a note from Dolls with Attitude telling her to be at the school phone box at 1 p.m. And she got there and the phone rang and it was the Dolls with Attitude. Well, it was mainly Kelly, if I'm completely honest. Telling her they'd taken the flower babies and she could have them back for the chocolate bars. It seemed like quite a fair swap to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they did give them the chocolate bars and they got the flower babies back. But there was also an art performance show. I don't know if you remember this. So Mr. Brisley was running this art performance. And we saw Kelly, Sarah Jane and Kevin rehearsing their performance in the art room. And they had it's really weird. It's almost like if you imagine what an umbrella looked like without the material on when it's open. Yeah. But it was all like neon lights and stuff, so that when the actual performance happened, it was dark and it was all. I'm guessing, looking from your face, you didn't actually do the actual performance part.
No, I don't remember that.
And it turned into this big rave thing rather than just the art performance.
Yeah, that does ring a bell.
And this then brought us back to the street hockey again.
course, yeah, they
obviously.
knew how much I wanted to do.
And the Hill Hogs were entering a competition to go to Holland, and they had a good chance of winning, but
Yeah, they had me on the team, so
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. Kelly in goal wasn't the problem. The problem was, I don't even remember at the time, there was that like all the chaos of the love triangle with Arnie and Dale and Chris
yeah, yeah,
and Laurie,
yeah.
which meant they obviously were all getting on. And Laurie had left the team, and then when they got to the match, the tensions were still high, and Arnie and Chris were like arguing with each other. And at half time, Colin gave them all a rousing team talk. We've got to get on with this. We need to play as a team. So they went out for the second half. And it looks like things were going to improve until Arnie and Chris started fighting.
No.
And they lost the game. Now, there was also that year a planned skiing trip.
Oh my God. Yes, again, another one that involved physical activity with a skill that could cause you injury. I remember the ski slope.
Yeah, so Evelyn had joined by this point, who became sort of like Kelly's sort of like best mate. And Kelly and Evelyn were asking Kevin for help with French phrases, so that when they went on the ski trip to France, they'd be able to speak to the French boys. Now, you've sort of answered my next question already. So there was the trip to the ski slope. Could you ski?
I think you know the answer. What the answer was going to be to this. No, I could not. I'd never put skis on in my life. And again, it was just eventful.
There's quite a few montages on that day, and one of you're either standing completely still or falling over.
Yeah, that's it. That sounds about right.
But I mean, you must have had a laugh going there and doing it, like.
Yeah, very funny, because we were always just like, oh my God, I can't believe, what are we doing now? Like, yeah, very, like, lots of fun.
Oh, and I just remember there's another one of you and Diana who played Evelyn getting on a ski lift. As well. That's the other one as well.
Yeah, that's it, because we had to practice like doing it, and it kind of coming up behind you.
I mean, that's the thing. Like I've only ever done like proper downhill skiing a couple of times in my life, but getting on the ski lift can be just as daunting as actually doing the skiing when it's your first time.
Exactly, and also there's a difference between falling gently on some fluffy snow compared to like ripping your leg on that material of that like Hessian ski track or whatever it is. Yeah.
Brilliant. I don't think I've ever been properly on a dry ski slope. No, I haven't.
I wouldn't rush to do it.
No, I haven't. For all the Scousers that were listening, Kirby ski slope isn't there anymore. We all know about the nonsense that was. That's a ski slope, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. That was built in the 70s. It was built the wrong way round. And yeah, it was a massive waste of money because it was never officially opened, and then they got rid of it. But anyway, I digress quite a bit there. Like,
good fact.
Yeah. I'm sure the Scousers listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, so that was like because the end of that series was them going on the trip. So you never actually went to France. It was just you saw them on the coach, and that was it. Off they went. We never actually saw it.
BBC didn't have the budget to take it. We just went to where was it? I think it was Milton Keynes. That's
right. Okay.
Right, ski slope. Of course it was.
Brilliant. And then we move on then to Series 22 and Year 11, and Judy had been going out. Judy had been out with Wayne, and that was like the storyline that was always sort of on and off with Judy and Wayne. And Kelly was asking her about it, and Judy said that he'd taken her out for pizza, basically. And Kelly said she thought it would have been romantic. And Judy said, well, it's not just about the food, is it? To which Kelly replied, I wouldn't know. But this was the year that Laura Sadler, who played Judy, left. So obviously she left quite early on, but how did you feel about Laura leaving? When, like when someone leaves anyway, I mean, especially if you're getting on with them and you're working with them all the time, it must be quite hard. But when they leave sort of in the middle or, while the series is going on, how did you feel about Laura leaving?
Yeah, it's just kind of yeah, it's never great when one of your
Yeah.
kind of besties leaves. Yeah.
Yeah, and we if we talk about let me just talk about Laura for just a few minutes because everyone says just how good she was as well. Like, and I mean, it's so sad what happened to her. But I mean, obviously, you just mentioned there that your besties. Like, I mean, did you get on with her? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it was like, yeah, that was our little gang with the other Laura as
yeah,
well, and Pete, and yeah, it was, yeah, she was a great actor and an amazing person and just lovely, yeah, and really
yeah,
nice.
brilliant, brilliant. And actually, because that was when the way Judy left was obviously she was killed off. Like, and Kelly spoke at Judy's memorial service. I don't know if you remember that, but she read the poem that they'd been studying in school. But does the atmosphere on set change when you're filming something like that?
Yeah, well, like of course, like just everything was just all it's all very odd and sad and the circumstances of everything, but like when, yeah, filming that, because you're searching within yourself
Yeah,
for that emotion, and you kind of imagine these things are happening, and yeah, like everyone does definitely kind of, there is a mood shift because
yeah,
everyone, it's almost like you're being respectful
yeah,
of what you're trying to portray as well, so
yeah. Because I imagine the majority of the time, we could all being kids, you were just messing about
yeah, yeah,
when it comes to stuff like
yeah, yeah. But yeah, with things like that, yeah, it always felt a bit like, we're a bit older as well, and it's like just felt a bit weird to be mucking about on the
yeah,
set.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the year as well with Sarah Jane was feeling ill a lot. Now the viewers knew that she was taking tablets, but obviously the other classmates didn't. And there was like quite a lot of mood swings from Sarah Jane, but Kelly always sort of looked out for Sarah Jane. She was always there, like making sure that when she was feeling ill, she was taken to teachers or she was taken to the first aid or whatever. But when Kelly tried to ask her a couple of days later if she was feeling better, we saw the mood swings again. And Sarah Jane was like, leave me alone, I'm working and stuff like that. And like I say, we know the viewers knew what was going on, but obviously, like Kelly didn't.
Mm.
And this was also round about the time of there was like an Outward Bound trip. It was just like a day trip out, and Kelly and Evelyn asked Sarah Jane again if she was going to go because everyone else was.
Is that the one where we went caving?
Yeah, yeah.
Because as soon as you'd mentioned those other activities, I was like, "Oh my god, we've got to get to this yet." As well.
Yeah.
Caving
So,
and
so they asked Sarah Jane if she was going, and again she put her name down and kicked off. And because of the Outward Bounds, they had to learn CPR as well. And Mr. Jones was teaching them the CPR. And Kelly, like I work in a school, right? And I don't work in high school. I work in primary school. But you'd always have a kid that asks you questions rather than listen to everything first. Like,
yeah,
stop asking me questions. So Kelly had a question for every single thing that he was telling them. Like, like make sure you're blowing them out. Make sure their mouth and their airways are clear. Well, what if they've injured their mouth? Well, then you seal your mouth around the nose. But what if they've broken the nose? Well, then you use the technique that I showed you earlier on of lifting their arms up. But what if they've broken their arms? Was Kelly's question. So can you remember what Mr. Jones replied to that one? When Kelly says, what if they've broken their arms? Mr. Jones, diehard, said, I'll break your arms in a minute. And Kelly never asked any more questions after that. So yeah, you've mentioned the Outward Bound trip. We've mentioned about it. Kelly didn't seem to want to do anything, even though she put her name down. and paid to go. She didn't want to get off the coach when they got there. And then when they were told they weren't going to have to do anything they didn't want to, she asked if she could just sit in the tea bar instead.
I mean, this actually was starting to parallel my own life, I think, at the time. That's exactly what I would have said.
Yeah, I mean, so you've mentioned the cave-in. You mentioned the cave-in. And,
Oh my God. The caving. We
yeah.
actually had to do that.
Brilliant.
And we actually had to, like, and then Laura was definitely like up for it, and she
Yeah.
was like, "Yeah, I'll go through." And it was like it was man-made caves,
Yeah.
but that didn't matter because it was still you had to try and like get through these bits, and they obviously took all the camera equipment, and
Yeah.
were trying to, and it was like, "Oh, are you joking?" It's like. And I was definitely smaller by then, so I could actually squeeze into the bit of the. But yeah, it was really scary. And then we did canoeing as well, which was dragon boat racing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing with caving is, I always think with caving, because I've done it a couple of times. The first time you do it, you are genuinely terrified because you're thinking, "There's no way I'm getting through them gaps." And there is a bit where you see. Wayne's sort of halfway through, and Kelly's behind there, and Kelly's like, "I'd sooner rather be in a classroom than here." Like,
I don't see why. Like, why do you voluntarily do that kind of thing? Like, let's try and get stuck in a really small place underground.
Have you ever seen that film, 127 Days?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Just be thankful then.
Right.
So when they were in the cave, they're obviously all talking to each other, and Kelly then asked Sarah Jane if she was okay. And there was no answer from Sarah Jane. And so Kelly goes back to try and find her, and she found her, and she was having a bit of a panic attack and saying that she needed her tablets. And it then came out that Sarah Jane was taken unprescribed temazepam, which, like, I always think for, you mentioned Zamo earlier on, and I just think it's another like really bold move by the program, to show that this while all the nonsense of getting stuck in the caves going on, there was always like a serious storyline at the same time, and I just think it was really bold to show, the fact that kids are doing this at the same time as that. And it's one of the things that, everyone said Grange Hill did really, really well. The fact that it is this kid and she is taking unprescribed medicine. So then that moves us then on nicely to series 23. And by now, Kelly's in sixth form. And Evelyn got annoyed with the older lads in sixth form and how they seem to expect the girls to swoon all over them, because you had the likes of Arnie and Colin, but there was like Nathan was there, played by Marcel as well, and I love the character of Nathan because he's so different to everyone else, and he does love himself. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, it is a bit of a front as well. But I love that character. But Kelly didn't think the same as Evelyn, and she said that they should go out with the lads and arrange with Colin to go to Nathan's gig because Nathan was DJing. Even though Colin seemed pretty oblivious to what was happening, he just thought it was, he was seeing it as a gang of mates going out. And Kelly obviously saw it a little bit more because Kelly did have a little bit of a crush on Colin at this. She'd moved on from Arnie, and right now,
he's old news.
And while Kelly did seem to have something going on with Colin, but Evelyn had met an older bloke. And Kelly thought that maybe she should try and meet someone older, until Colin came over and asked her if she'd be going to the next gig. And when he'd gone, Evelyn told Kelly that she wouldn't need to find an older bloke because Colin obviously fancied her. And I loved it. Evelyn said, "Didn't you see his body language?" To which Kelly replied, "I thought he was standing funny." And I just thought, that's a little joke there that's been put in to go over the kids' heads there.
It really was.
I love that because there was always little things, like every now and again, there was little things put in like that. And Colin then asked Kelly out properly, and she agreed. And he then started waffling on about where they should go, to which Evelyn said, get out while you're ahead here, mate. He took Kelly to a comedy club, and when they were there, Colin asked Kelly if she fancied having a go, and she said no, which it's like a little precursor to the storyline in the next series. When they were at the comedy club, who should come out on stage but Mr. Hankin? So I've got to ask you there about Lee Corns, because obviously Lee's been on here. He's a massive supporter of the podcast, and he's just one of like the funniest people I've ever met. Yeah. Was he like that all the time? Like,
yeah, all the time. And he was just funny and fun with everyone, and he'd always kind of make every scene that you had with him fun.
Yeah,
he's brilliant.
Brilliant. And then one day when Kelly and Colin were out, they saw Evelyn and Simon. Now, Simon was the older fella that Evelyn had met that night out, and they were getting like really quite serious because Evelyn had told him that she was a lot older than she actually was. And so Colin almost gave away how old Evelyn actually was until Kelly sort of dragged Colin away. And like I say, they were going out quite a bit. They went out on a few dates, Kelly and Colin. And there was a time where they went out again, but it was all a little bit awkward. And at the end of the night, Colin went to kiss Kelly and she just kissed him on the cheek. When he tried to kiss her again, she just said bye and walked away. And Kelly then went to try and talk to Colin about it. But Colin was like, oh, Arnie's feeling a bit down. The lads are going to take him out. And Kelly did look a little bit disappointed because you didn't really know at that point sort of how Kelly's mind was working. And Sarah Jane then told Kelly that she'd heard Colin, Arnie and Nathan talking about how they'd be going out on the pull, even though Colin actually said he wouldn't be. And, while Kelly's got all this sort of little schoolgirl problems going on, Evelyn then told Kelly that she'd slept with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And Kelly was really shocked to find this out. And the thing with that was, like, Evelyn was just spending loads of time with that fella. There was a bit where they went shopping. Kelly just thought it was going to be the two of them, but she brought Simon along as well. And Kelly did feel like a little bit of a gooseberry. And Evelyn then asked Kelly if she could tell her mum that Evelyn was staying at Kelly's. And Kelly then realised the fact that Evelyn was using her quite a bit. She wants to be her alibi so she could stay out. And like, I like the storyline because, earlier on in a few years earlier, we'd had like Chrissy Mannering pregnancy, but that was like with another kid in the school. And this one was sort of showing you, like, not necessarily don't tell lies, but always be honest with people, because like a kid telling a lie at school is one thing, but then when it affects you, because Evelyn asked Kelly if she could talk to her, but Kelly said she didn't have time. And eventually she did speak to Kelly, but Kelly had mentioned to Sarah Jane about what had gone on. And Sarah Jane made the comment about Evelyn sleeping with Simon. Because, I mean, you've got to remember this was the late 90s. And it was quite a shocking thing. I quite a shocking storyline to, again, kids' telly to be dealing with.
I think also her character, because she was quite quiet and unassuming, and same like in real life as well. And it was great that they picked someone like her to happen to, who you would least expect.
Yeah. Again, that was one thing that Grange Hill did well, because they did it with Zamo. We've mentioned Zamo. The fact that he wasn't like a bully character or a lad you'd expect to, but then, as you say, the fact that they've done that with Evelyn, and then we didn't see Evelyn sort of sat crying in the toilets. And again, you're not really sure what's going on. I mean, I think people had an idea, but they didn't really know. And then to say this is where the bit about where they're lying comes in, because Kelly then saw Simon in the school and went looking for Evelyn. but she didn't find it in time and walked into the English class. Simon was already in there and Evelyn was already in there. And we then find out that he's there on like a teaching placement. And Kelly, Evelyn and Sarah Jane were then talking about it and sort of asking wonder what they could do about it. So Kelly took a note to the staff room for Simon, but she said it was an apology for being late, so she was able to give it to her that way. But it was actually a letter from Evelyn asking to meet up. And I love the fact that Kelly, without actually being really involved, is really involved at the same time. And there was a class discussion about Tess of the D'Urbervilles, which kind of mirrors what's going on with Evelyn and Simon, because Kelly gave her opinion of Angel Clare in that, but directed all her answers towards Simon, who was teaching the class. And now the kids obviously seem to like him and seem to like his lessons, but Kelly obviously didn't like him for what was going on with Evelyn. And then Evelyn then told Kelly that she was pregnant, and Evelyn told Kelly that she'd written to remember the days of writing letters that she'd written to Simon to tell him before he'd started teaching at Grange Hill, but he'd never even mentioned it to her when they'd spoken to each other, and he said, "Look, this can't go on." He never even mentioned the fact that she was pregnant. So Kelly then said, "Right, he's a dead man." And in the meantime, Simon had been to tell Mr. Robson about the relationship with Evelyn and that he knew he couldn't stay teaching at the school. And that was when we saw Kelly went and had a go at Simon for everything and for not even replying to the letter. Simon then realized he'd never seen it. So he ran home and found the letter. And it's like, I just thought that whole storyline, as convoluted as it sounds, me talking about it now, I think that was another one that was done really, really well.
And it was a really good, that scene was on my show reel for ages because it was like a really good way, it's like if you hear anyone on anything go, what letter? It really it rings back to that because it was so poignant, that thing, and that realization. And I remember how it was directed going down that corridor, and just it was like that realization of oh my God, you didn't even get the letter, and it was I'd been having a go at him and everything, and
and then Simon asked Kelly to help, and Kelly said, he was the last person she was going to help. But he then said he was trying to put things right. And he said he would put things right if Kelly stopped acting like a stupid schoolgirl. And I love that. But Kelly says to him, well, I thought you liked it when girls acted like schoolgirls. Kelly then passed a message to Evelyn to go and see him. And Evelyn's mum rang Kelly looking for her, and Kelly told her she'd just left her house. Then Evelyn's mum then said she was going to ring the police, and so Kelly then had to tell Evelyn's mum about Simon. And at school the next day, Evelyn told Kelly not to talk to her because obviously she told her about Simon. Kelly tried to apologize, and said that she was there for her to talk to, but Evelyn said she didn't need to talk to anyone about it, especially not Kelly. And this tied in with, I don't know if you remember, there was a big thing about homelessness at the same time going on because Alec had been on the streets and Wayne had been looking for him. And they had a bit of a homeless drive at the school, and they were doing a thing where Alec was sleeping outside the school and people were volunteering to sleep, to sort of stay over and see what it was like. And Colin was supposed to be doing it, but he told Kelly he couldn't make it, and could she do it for him? So she went, but he'd also said the same to Evelyn, and the pair of them then patched up their differences. And Evelyn then said that she still didn't know if she was going to keep the baby. Now, just before we move on to the next series, Colin had a job as a TV presenter and asked Kelly to review a movie for him.
Yeah, that was another really fun scene.
Can you remember what movie it was?
It was Notting
It
Hill.
was Notting Hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was another scene that was on my show reel, and I know it off by heart.
So did
That's fun.
you did you get to write any of that dialogue, or was it all done for you?
No, it was all done for me.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, it was just really, and I feel like then as well, like the writers, Simon was writing for me, kind of, and how I delivered stuff
Yeah.
because it was really fun.
It is
Yeah,
brilliant. The Julia eat some more puddings and all that. Like, I love that.
yeah.
So then move on. We'll move on to your last series, your final series, series 24, which was on it air in 2001, and in the upper sixth by this point. But Evelyn had left Grange Hill and had moved away
Mhm.
to Cambridge with Simon, and she'd had their baby girl. And Kelly told Evelyn that it was different at school now, and she didn't really have any mates. Although she got on with people, she didn't really sort of have friends. It just wasn't that fun anymore. The next time Kelly went to see Evelyn, she didn't seem as happy as she did the first time, and wasn't sure if she'd done the right thing by moving away. But it turned out that it looked like she did do the right thing, because we never saw her again after that. Kelly just stopped going to visit her. Whether
Yeah,
she did off
I
screen,
was
I
all
don't
right.
know. But she just sort of, just packed in there. And Kelly then told the other six formers that she felt like she was stuck in the slow lane, because they all had other interests, like Colin and Bryony had been sort of like on telly, so they were still doing little bits, and the others, like the lads and Bryony had started a band and stuff, and she didn't really know. She wanted something to do, so they all said that the film review that she'd done for Colin's TV program was really good, and she should do more stuff like that. So she then spoke to Mr. Hankin about it, and he said he'd gone to a comedy workshop where, when he was sort of starting out, and that she should think about having a go. So, I've since read and found out that comedy is kind of like your thing. Were you were
Yeah.
you were you already looking at it, exploring it then when you were in Grange Hill?
Not actually doing stand up, but like everything, I'd always just be doing silly characters and doing like silly sketches and things like that. So comedy definitely was my thing, and I'd always play comedy characters in
Right.
different productions and things. So yeah, like that was definitely following, yeah,
Yeah.
what I,
So was it
yeah.
your idea for Kelly to get into the comedy? Like,
No, it wasn't. It was like the script writer, the
right.
script editor at the time was just like, we've got a few ideas, and then yeah, that was one of them. And
Because
it
I
was
think
like, oh
this
yeah.
is like the start of your biggest storyline, so to speak, not just with the comedy, but with what came after it.
Yeah.
So when Kelly first went to the workshop, she was really nervous, but Mr. Hankin persuaded her to stay along with Maria, who ran the workshop. And the sort of first, it wasn't really part of the workshop, but they were just talking about how they could deal with hecklers and stuff like that. And then after another workshop, Kelly went for a drink with Maria, who ran the workshop, and found out that Maria was gay. And when Kelly first found this out, she sort of made her excuses and left. It then led to like lots of other things, because Kelly told Mr. Hankin then that she'd been invited to a party by Maria. And as I say, we'd found out that Maria was gay. She didn't know if she should go because she wouldn't know anyone. And Mr. Hankin was like, well, you'll know Maria and you'll know Sophie, a girlfriend. But she still wasn't sure, because she asked Colin to go with her. But Colin wouldn't go because he didn't want to go to a gay party. I say, like, times have changed a lot. Attitudes have changed a lot. But this, in like the year 2000 and 2001 on kids' TV, again, it's a really like bold move, like, because gay characters on telly were coming more and more to the forefront,
Yeah.
but not on kids' telly. Like, you were getting in soap operas, they were more seen. They were seen more often, but for kids' telly to be showing that,
Yeah.
was massive. And Kelly went on her own and was introduced to a girl called Alex. And the pair of them spent time talking to each other at the party. And then they arranged to go to the cinema together. But, in Kelly's eyes, they were just going as mates. And Kelly had a chat with Colin about the party that she'd been to. But she told him that she didn't want people to know that she'd been to a gay party. And then she told Colin about Alex and she'd met her and he'd got on. She felt like she was the only person there she could talk to at that party. And Colin asked Kelly if she was trying to tell him something. And Kelly said, look, Colin, just because I don't want to go out with you doesn't mean I'm a lesbian. And I mean, like, poor Colin, like, and they did meet up for a drink, Kelly and Alex. And that Alex then told Kelly that she was gay. And Kelly looked really uncomfortable at this point. But Alex said that, she knew Kelly wasn't prejudiced. And Kelly and Alex went for another drink. And I thought, like I say, we talked about gay characters on Kids Telly, but the fact that they were having conversations about the sexuality and when how did Alex know that she was gay? When did she know she was gay and stuff like that? And I think this would have been a reason for parents not to want their kids to watch Grange Hill at that time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the type of thing that kids would watch, and then it could open up questions. Yeah. Like that I always say that one of the reasons why my parents let me watch it was because there was stuff on there that they might have not been able to talk to me about because they didn't know how to approach it with a kid. But then I could watch it and then start asking questions with them, and I just think it was again one of the things Grange Hill did really, really well. Now, at the same time while all this was going on, there was the school talent competition.
Yeah.
And Kelly entered with a stand-up routine, and Alex turned up to support her, and Kelly was like, can't believe she's here. Because at the same time, it was quite obvious Kelly was becoming a little bit conflicted with her own sexuality, her own thoughts and stuff like that. And the rumor then spread around the school that Kelly was gay, but that Vicky was her girlfriend. And Vicky then had a go at Kelly. But Kelly had no idea why Vicky was having a go at her. And Kelly comes out with the words that tells Vicky that she's not gay. Vicky did apologize and realized that she'd been stupid. But she said that she thought that if Kelly was gay, she didn't want to give her the wrong idea. She didn't want to think her friendship was in. But that's one of the prejudices that people have when they find out someone's gay. And I mean, it took me till, I realized when I was 17, 18, and I met a few gay people, and you think they don't all fancy me. Do you know what I mean? And that's
that was always the funny thing, wasn't it? That it's all right as long as they don't come on to who do you think you are, like God's gift to everybody?
Not every gay fella fancies me in the same way. Not every girl I meet, you know what I mean? But people don't realize that, do they? They don't,
these little lines like that and little nuggets that kids will watch and then go, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, Alex then, Kelly and Alex, they become friends, so they were often and they'd often see them out. And I always say that was another good thing Grange Hill did. When they were in sixth form, they weren't just seeing in school. They were seeing out at night. They were seeing in the pub. They were seeing in clubs, and I thought that was good. And when Kelly was talking to Alex about what had happened with Vicky, Alex asked her what had upset her the most: Vicky thinking she was gay, or Vicky having a go at her. And Kelly said she didn't know, and she also said that she didn't know if she was gay or not. What do you think of Kelly? Because we never actually find out. Do you think she was?
I'm not sure. I honestly think that she was just going through a time of discovery and that she was a bit lost.
Yeah.
And I just think that she probably would have had a relationship then with anyone that kind of she, felt something for and gave her attention, but I don't think that she was set either way, to be
Right.
honest.
Yeah.
And I just remember that when it was put to me, because obviously they have to have
Yeah.
that.
I was going to ask you this, but yeah, go
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah, like saying, oh, so one thing we're going to do is that you are, but like go have a go at stand up comedy, and I was like, oh yeah. And the other one, obviously, is quite a big deal, is that you question your sexuality, and of course, like just straight away, I was just really excited and just
Uh-huh.
thought, well, that's amazing, and what a
Yeah.
cool storyline to be part of. And then of course they were like, obviously the time that we're on and things like that, like we would love to get to a point where, you know, there, if there was a kiss or something, like maybe down the line, and like asked if I was okay with that and stuff, and they were like, but the truth of the matter being that it probably wouldn't get that far
Yeah.
because they might be able to do that like
Yeah.
for kids TV. And I was just like, I'm up for it, because I just thought it was just such a, I was like so like flattered and like to be asked to be part of that storyline, and I knew that it would be a really a good one, because it was like, you know, Brookside
Yeah.
and that like the character and everything before that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was just really exciting, and I thought that, and I did like the way that it was left. Like, who
Yeah.
knows? Because I think that then that is what a lot of people go through, where
Yeah.
they do question it, especially that kind of age,
Yeah.
where things are changing within your friendship groups and different bits and bobs. But yeah,
Yeah. No.
who knows?
Yeah, because yeah, especially when you said earlier on, going from a few lines here and there to be
Yeah,
given that storyline as well. Like, and like I say, it was obviously your biggest one. I mean, that's like you say, it must have been great, and you've said there that it was, and that series ended with the talent show final with Kelly starting off performing her stand up, and she's making jokes about like her boyfriend being stupid and other things like that. And then she mentions that she's black
hmm,
and makes a stereotypical joke, and everyone goes quiet. And that's when she launches into this rant about prejudices and why do people think it's okay to laugh at some things but not others. And I thought that was done really well as
yeah,
well. But that was your final ever scene. Like we
yeah.
never saw Kelly after that 86 episodes later. Um, how did you feel about having to leave?
It's just so sad. So sad, because you're just like, and everyone was like, can't you go back as a cleaner? And so sad that it's like they are your school years. So
Yeah,
that's the end, unless you come back as a teacher or a cleaner. It honestly was just like such a massive part of my life. And like, as you know, well, all of us like basically went through puberty on screen for everyone to see your different like weight fluctuations, your hairstyle. I mean, I had every hairstyle possible. And so you go through all this stuff together, and it's so unique, your relationship with
yeah,
everyone. You've grown up with each other, and it's like your second school.
yeah.
And yeah, just it's so sad. It's like it's like an end of an era, and you're just like, oh no, like this is it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when you look, when I look on IMDb, and I'm going to say the catchphrase for everyone. I know it's not the most reliable source of information, but when you look at your final episode, the list of people that leave, it says final appearances of, and there was so many people who left at that time. Obviously, because it's sixth form, isn't it? It's like the end of sixth form and stuff. Unless you're like me and who did 3 years in sixth form.
Well, that's it, isn't it? That's like so many people have to kind of go back. It's like,
Yeah.
it should have been that person.
And so I say you've left Grange Hill, but you continued acting,
Yeah,
didn't you? So like say there's stuff on there like you were in the bill, and you've done quite a few short films
yeah.
and noticed as well, Anglesey Road and stuff. But is there anyone that you like? You mentioned the people here like Cheggers earlier on, Keith Chegwin and stuff. But is
Yeah.
there any way you think, wow, I can't believe I'm working with that person? Was there anything like that? Did you ever get sort of starstruck?
Um, I think you know what when we were filming Grange Hill, because it was at Elstree and it was in the same
Yeah,
lot, EastEnders, and the same lot as Top of the Pops back then.
yeah,
The chaperones always used to be like, you never go up to anyone, you never ask them for their autograph because you're all professionals, you're all like on a level. So of course we'd all be like, oh, because we'd be in the canteen and like Blur would be next to you or
yeah,
something, and it'd be like next to like the biggest stars in EastEnders and stuff. So I think you really got used to just being around or
yeah,
like stars and stuff all the time. So it's kind of like you really, I think it was a really good thing to have like instilled in you. It's like we're all equal and
yeah,
like, so, and then I always just used to think if ever I've met people over the years, I always think like, I'd like, sometimes the odd person, if you're a big fan, you might just say like, oh, I'm, big fan of your
yeah,
work. Hello. But I always think I'll work with you at some point and then we can like have that relationship where we're professional.
yeah, yeah. I know because I know Tim Polly, who played Banksy in the Zamo years, he said that about don't ask for autographs, don't do this. He said, but he saw Christopher Reeve in the canteen, and he said there was no way I wasn't going to ask him for his autograph. He
Yeah,
said there was just no way. So he broke the card, he broke the rule, like you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah.
But
I,
wouldn't you?
I remember when Paul Nichols was in EastEnders, and I
Yeah.
mean, he was just a massive crush, and I just when I saw him on the corridor, or whatever, I'd be like, I'd just, like go to a little schoolgirl anyway. But it was mad the people that would just turn up at for
Yeah.
Top of the Pops, like massive mega
Yeah.
stars to be there.
Brilliant. Now, I need to talk to you about something called Patience of a Saint.
Yeah.
Could you explain what that was like?
Yeah, so that is a feature film that I was in where I played a character called Dr. Bragg, and she was the most vile, awful person ever. And the director of that, Russ, he was the one that did Anglesey Road, the short film.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
In real life, he knows that I'm quite a glamorous person and I like all of my nice things, and it's like he just always seems to cast me at the complete opposite to just have fun with the fact that I then have to be like the greasiest hair, most awful looking person in the worst costume. And so it's like I was a doctor that's in this kind of ward that's out on an island that was looking after like prisoners and people that had done bad stuff. But then, oh, spoiler alert! No, but there's like something a bit more sinister going on and something that's been unleashed in it. So it's like a real horror.
yeah.
And yeah, that was really, really fun to do because it was so different. And my character was just disgusting. So it's brilliant fun.
Brilliant, brilliant. Because all right, you've just said there that the director Russ cast you as all these like the complete opposites. But I saw a little bit of Anglesey Road, and
Yeah.
Mrs. Three, who you played, she seems quite glamorous in her own way.
Yeah, but she was grotesque at the same time. And like, yeah, so it was like always like I would have to like stuff my face with chocolate and like be like a really grotesque, horrible character, or just look disgusting. So yeah.
Brilliant. And you've just said there about the glamorous side and stuff like that. I need to mention this because a few years back you did some adverts for JD Williams with Davina.
Oh yeah, I
Right.
did.
Now, the reason why I'm mentioning those adverts, I don't know if I've already told you this, but my mate Danny, he's like a senior creative manager, and he said, "Oh, this is he sent us some pictures once. Oh, this is the latest job I've done with Davina," and I'm looking at it thinking that's Kate Bell in the background there. But yeah, like that's the only reason why I've mentioned I've mentioned
Oh,
it.
yeah. Oh my God, small world.
Yeah, because I mentioned it to him again the other day, and he'd forgotten, and he was like, I was like, I'm interviewing that girl in a couple of weeks, and he was like, what are you interviewing her for? What are you interviewing that actor, model, comedian for? And I was like, because she was in Grange Hill, and he was like, no way, like, but yeah,
Yeah, that was really fun because then I got to actually like because I do a lot of improv as well and I love improv, so I kind of got to do funny stuff like and Davina was so much fun and we
Yeah,
did with this stuff where we were just like riffing with each other and just having fun on those commercials. So
brilliant.
got
Yeah.
so that was good.
Yeah, it's tremendous. But yeah, so I've got to give me Danny's one of my best mates. I like I've what year are we in now? Oh, like I've known Danny over 30 years, you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
known him since school, like so he's a good lad. Like okay. So what are you doing now?
so now I all still acting, still but it's tough out there. It's
Yeah.
tough. But so, I always try and kind of make my own opportunities as
Uh-huh.
well. I wrote my own one woman show a few years back. And I've got this character called Pixie Malone, who's like, she thinks she's the most influential influencer out there, but she's just a complete idiot.
Right.
And yeah, and I love to just pastiche all the things that I obviously secretly really love. Yeah, so kind of I'm now going to be working on a few more. I think Pixie's going to come back, and I've got a few ideas for her,
Brilliant.
and probably to kind of social media type things, little sketches and bits, and like a few character bits that I'm working on as well. Yeah, so and I've like tried to kind of write some stuff as well, like a sitcom pilot, got some
Uh-huh.
ideas and bits and bobs. So yeah, still always kind of like chugging away.
Yeah, brilliant.
But yeah, all these years later.
Tremendous. Tremendous. Well, Kate, we are coming towards the end of the
Yeah.
interview. So I'm going to ask you the same few questions that I ask everyone at the end of every episode. So recently, over the last couple of years, there's been talk of a Grange Hill movie in the works. What do you think of the idea of a Grange Hill movie?
It great. Anything that like sheds light on Grange Hill again and opens it up to a new generation, great. But the mind boggles on like exactly
Yeah.
how that would do that and what would be the premise and yeah, how that would go really.
Yeah.
And whether I'd be in it.
Well, that's the thing. If you were asked, would we see the return of Kelly Bradshaw?
Of course. I've,
Brilliant.
I've jumped to it.
Brilliant. Okay. Now,
Just put it
you
if anyone's watching and wonders if I want to be answers yes.
you you mentioned earlier on that you did watch Grange Hill as a kid. So, other than Kelly Bradshaw, who was your favourite character in Grange Hill?
Well, for different reasons. I mean, one of my favourites was Tegs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I fancied him. Um, and yeah, like it just, gosh, just all of like, and then Chrissy and people like that because they always just seem really cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so cool! I want to be like them. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Justine and Chrissy.
Yeah. So if you couldn't have played Kelly, which other character would you like to have played?
Oh yeah, definitely Justine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. She was properly like the face of Grange Hill for a few years,
yeah,
wasn't she?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the final question then, Kate, is why do you think there's still such affection for Grange Hill?
I think it's like nostalgia never goes out of fashion, does it? And I just think that there's like so many people grew up with it.
Uh-huh.
So many people have some kind of story about their relationship and what they think when they think of Grange Hill or something that happened when they were watching Grange Hill. And just it's that time of your life, isn't it, when you're watching it most of the time, or that is just great and there's all sorts of things going on. So I just think it was an institution,
Yeah.
and there weren't that many channels
No.
either. So, it helped everyone
Massively, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's either that or something else. Um, Yeah, so I think that like most people watched it because it was like the EastEnders for kids,
Yeah,
basically.
definitely, definitely. Brilliant. Well, Kate, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
If
Thank you for taking me down memory
Yeah,
lane.
no, not at all. I was going to say thank you for eventually coming on because we have, it's been a couple of years, hasn't it,
Yeah.
since we first made contact about it. But no, honestly, thank you so much. It has been great talking to you and finding out your experiences on the program as well. So honestly, I can't thank you enough. It's been
Oh,
great
thanks.
talking to
Yeah,
you.
it's
Yeah,
honestly been so great. Thank you.
no, not at
I
all.
feel like I'm like, I need to remember what she looked like, and I want to look at that, and I can't. Like, I want to remember that a bit more. I've got to look at that. So yeah.
Well, if you've got ITVX Premium, it's now all of your series are now on there now. So if you've got ITVX Premium, which is the old BritBox, there are other free ways of watching it if you can get onto a certain video sharing
Yeah,
platform.
yeah,
There are, but a lot of those videos tend to get taken down. But yeah,
yeah.
there you
Oh
go. But
wow,
honestly,
I appreciate your research
oh
as well.
no, no. Honestly, it's been brilliant talking to you. Thanks once again for coming on. It's been brilliant. And to anyone that's listening, I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Thanks. Bye bye.